Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
For some reason, I'm unable to start my video. I do not know why, but I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Beautiful. Yes. I would like to welcome everyone to our first BAOBAB Perspectives by CPDI Africa discussion session. It's been a long time that these ideas have been on our mind, and it's very beautiful for us to finally be able to see it come out. Very quickly, I would just like to give a general summary of what it is that we are trying to do here with BAOBAB, the BAOBAB Perspectives. Essentially, we're trying to create a platform where we can have discussions in the Afrocentric architecture space, not just architecture, but the general African built environment. Have different people come to speak from their various areas of expertise, and we can have beautiful discussions surrounding these various topics. Today, we are going to be learning and discussing with the great architect Chibuzo Ohaneje, one of our very own CPDI Africa designers who specializes in Igbo architecture. He is a man of many colors, many coats also, but most importantly, he is a family man and he's an Igbo man of culture, a man of respect and renown. And today we hope to be learning about the about how to incorporate traditional design into modern design. And he's going to be lecturing us for about 15 minutes, and then we'll open the floor for questions and discussions, contributions. Welcome, Architect Chibuzo Ohaneje, to talk to us. Welcome, sir. I hope you're doing good.
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening, everyone. Can you guys see me or hear me?
Good evening.
Okay, that's right.
Yes, we can, sir.
My name is Architect Chibuzo Ohaneje. I'm an Igbo man from Imo State. A registered architect. I'm an Afrocentric architect. And above all, I'm a Pan-Africanist. So we are going to launch today's BAOBAB series with a look into how to modernize what we call traditional architecture and bring it into reality in our present time. It's going to be a very interesting lecture with some examples and some practical uses where you are going to see how this is done. And of course, I'm an Igbo man, so they say charity begins at home. I'm going to be leaning more on my ethnic group. And before saying that, I will say I'm a Nigerian, so no need to bring out any accent to form or to decode that I am a British or I'm an American. No, I'm going to speak the beer and the here English. So settle down well and we are going to enjoy the ride. So my host should allow me to share my screen so that I can share the slides. This is modern application of traditional designs, a BAOBAB perspective on integrating heritage into contemporary architecture. Of course, presented by the one and only Chibuzo Ohaneje, MNIA CPDI Africa designer specializing in no other one but my own ethnic group, Igbo architecture. So let's start. What is traditional African architecture? When you talk of traditional African architecture, we don't literally mean huts, some people with sticks and running naked inside the bush, or some village-like life where there is no electricity, there's no life. No, that's not what you mean by traditional African. Traditional African architecture is the roots of who Africans are. It has been established that the civilization actually started in Africa. We know the story of Egypt, and the pyramids are there to give us the testimony that what we are saying is true. And up to today, I can vouch that nobody can explain how stones of this mass were brought together and put one on top of the other in this harmony and raised up to that particular height. That is African traditional architecture in Egypt. We have so many examples all over Africa. We have in my own region, we had a pyramid in Nsude in Enugu State that was standing till some time after colonization, which we believe we are taken down because of what we call our newfound religions. So they say, why is African traditional architecture still relevant today? It's relevant today because the architecture is not just about our buildings. It's not just about our shrines. It's not just about how we were able to put or integrate one material on top of the other or merge them together to form a unity. The architecture is relevant because it is our way of life. It was our way of life. Our ancestors found a way to live in nature in harmony. They were able to integrate those elements they found naturally around them to make them work for them, to give them shelter. And they're also able to know how to interact with those elements, not to harm nature. So learning how they did this is the key. In fact, as we are doing this series, you are going to see that even the almighty Bauhaus are beginning to wake up, and they've seen that the solution is inside this integration. So this is very, very relevant. And why heritage has a role to play in modern design is our heritage is who we are, it's our identity. So taking your heritage out of modern design means we are completely lost. You don't know who you are. You are bearing a name that is not yours. You're bearing an identity that is not yours. So heritage is still very important into modern design. And whosoever says it's going to take away heritage, take away culture, take away his tradition from modern design means the person is lost. And what design is known for, even in Eurocentric School of Architecture, we're taught that design is location specific. So you cannot talk of design when your design doesn't answer the conditions of the location into which it is finds itself. Key elements of the traditional architecture in Africa are explained by these slides or pictures you can see in these slides. First of all, Africa was known to have a nuclear family. That's how it started. And funny enough, that nuclear family used to work very well. There were less cases of gender-based violence. There were less cases of divorce. There were less cases of problems between family members. But right now that we've taken this monotonous family, me, my wife, my children, and we are all locked in within ourselves, we are seeing that society seems to fail. So the solution to me is to go back to what was practiced before and integrate it into our way of life to stop the vices we have. From the first picture on the left, you can see a compound that belongs to an African man. You see how the compound is organized. You can see the balance in the compound. Generally, it was designed in such a way that the man had his own private abode. Then the wives and the concubines and the animals and servants most likely had also their abodes around him. But like in my ethnic group, the man's compound was facing the entrance. So he was like the chief security officer of the compound. That hierarchy was there. That balance was there. And to the left and to the right, you could see compounds of his wives and concubines. And beside those compounds, each of them had like an animal farm. Symbolism and aesthetics, that's something that is going into extinction, and it is very sad. The NCDB writings are what the Igbos were known for. They are not only Igbos, even people in Akwa Ibom states, even some people in Ghana, in West African countries, we are using that writing. And the good thing about that writing is that it was so rich that there was no word that had no symbol or no expression in that alphabet. Funny enough, we have lost that alphabet because it's just a few members of the Igbo society right now, like the Dibias. Dibias means the medicine men in Igbo land. And it has been discovered that Dibias all across Africa speak that same NCDB language. When they come out and speak what they are saying, a Dibia in another country, you understand that language. So that language was so powerful that it was linking societies together. And we're using those symbols to adorn our buildings. We're using those symbols on our wall. It was a known fact that women were even the ones that were painting those uli patterns and NCDB write-ups on the wall. You see that hierarchy, you see that strata in our society. That was what our traditional architecture brought to the table. That is why we've lost, and that is why we really need to bring back if we have to come to our senses. Yes, I use our senses because we seem to have lost it and we seem not to know where we belong to. Community and social spaces. Another thing the African traditional architecture was known for was the involvement of the community. We were living together as one. Again, remember I earlier talked about the family itself, how the family was nuclear, but we found a way to live together as one, even in that diversity of people. But right now, it's not just family. There are families, there are clans that came together as one. The first picture on your upper right, you can see the mosque at Njene. These are people that come together once every year and put their hands together to renovate the walls of that mosque. So that mosque always stays fresh every time, every year. Why? Because people are coming together. They are breaking down those barriers. They're breaking down those fences that the new civilization has brought into Africa. And they are now seeing that working together can give them such progress. And what they are using to renovate those walls is nothing else but mud. I said it before. We knew how to use these natural resources to our own advantage. We're using mud, we're using adobe, we're using thatch, we're using reeds, we're using bamboo, we're using a lot of things to build. And those our housings were sustainable. So those traditional elements can be brought into modern design. How? Let's take an example of the courtyard. The courtyard is an element that is of great value in Africa because it symbolizes our spirituality. It symbolizes how the community relates itself as one. It symbolizes also a means of ventilating the area. I think what we are keeping now in this present society is that ventilation aspect of it. But no, that's not only what the courtyard is meant for. The courtyard is meant for people to come together, to sit down together, and to tell themselves tales, because Africans are known to communicate via storytelling. So those natural resources, we can modernize them. We should not wait for the market to bring out that demand, because right now we seem to move by what the market demand pushes us to. For instance, right now we are using concrete blocks, which is not good for our health, but we are still using it because that is what is obtainable. But we should go back and really think, when we are using natural based material like compressed and stabilized earthen blocks, how was it impacting our health? We were healthier. But this concrete we're using right now seems to deteriorate our health. So there's really a very big need for us to go back to what we used to do. And until we decide to research into how to make those elements better, like I mentioned, the compressed and stabilized earthen bricks, Dimas Moko has been doing great about that in his own little way, but he's not the only one that should champion this. If you go together, for instance, if you decide to make the bamboo more durable. Researches have been going on how to use bamboo as reinforcement material. I've spoken with somebody last month that said he wants to practically use bamboo as his reinforcement members on his floor slab. So people have started to wake up, but we need more than this to keep this trend going. I belong to CPDI Africa, like I said in the beginning, and the good thing about CPDI Africa is that we found a way to bring this, our traditional architecture, into 5 elements that can define it. And it's not just limited to African traditional architecture. If you go through these elements, you are going to see that the whole architecture in the world can be classified in these elements: culture and lifestyle, aesthetics, spirituality, materials, community engagement. Community engagement, for example, I talked about the renovation of the mosque in Jenne, the wall. Materials, I talked about the compressed and stabilized earthen bricks. I talked about bamboo. I talked about thatch. Spirituality, I mentioned something about the courtyard. But as you go down, you're going to see how I was able to use my courtyard in my design to emphasize on spirituality. No, these are some of the case studies that were done by some of our members. This is actually a Yoruba design that was done in 2020 during our internship. This young man, architect Adelaja Fawaz, designed a house he called House of Riches. His concept is that you should be able to see the African architecture from far. You should be able to tell the story of where it's coming from. You should be able to tell where it belongs to without being shy. You should be able to be bold. So from this, you see this beautiful piece of art was conceived using a cowrie. Cowrie those days are what we are known as the modern exchange tool. So he used cowrie and made it look so beautiful that from far you are going to be wowed. But you can now see that he used the concept of riches to do something that is purely African. There's no way you see this from far and they tell you this is Japanese and you accept. That this is British and you accept. This is purely African. So African architecture should be bold, because our traditional architecture was bold. You could tell which part of Africa every architecture you saw came from. We should be able to maintain this type of velocity even in our present day. CPDI Africa was able to open up many people. Like this is Ikechukwu, also part of our internship 2020. He's an Igbo architect like me that also believes in bringing back the past. His concept talks about the Maui, those masquerades that we wear and we use during festivities. So by those masquerades, even the West recognize Africa. When they talk about African culture, the first thing they look at is those masquerades, those are dances, that folklore. So using his architecture to bring your attention to it is also a very good way to tell you that we should go back to what we used to be. It's not only in Igbo land or in the south, even in the north. This is a northern design by architect Hawa Mahmoud. From this, you see the arches that the northern designs are known for. And this design was paneled after the way the Hausa peoples live, taking bearings from the Emir of Kano's palace. She was able to come out with this piece. Our Igbo architecture can be influenced today by our past using a lot of things. We can use our materials, we can use our spirituality, we can use our communal engagement. Courtyard and open spaces. Remember I said earlier about courtyard being not just a place for ventilation, ventilating the inner spaces, but it can be also used to enhance spirituality. In my own design, what I did is, the Igbos are known to come from above. They are known as divine people, and that our ancestors only came from above. So what I did in my design was that the courtyard had the staircase in it, so that when you climb up to the upper rooms, you are like ascending to where your ancestor is coming from. That was how I was able to bring in spirituality into the courtyard. Some ethnic group in Nigeria, we plant a tree. I think Edo, we plant a tree in the center of that courtyard, and that tree is planted by a specific person in the family to enhance his presence into the compound. That's another mode of spirituality, using courtyards. Symbolism, I talked about how women used to paint woolly patterns on the walls, and how the NCDB was a powerful way, and still a powerful way of communication. You could, for instance, design a kitchen, an outdoor kitchen in Igbo land. I use the NCDB symbols for pots, for snail, for antelope, and stuff like that, and inscribe them on the wall. So an Igbo man understands the NCDB language. Once he sees those symbols, you know that this particular building is for food. This particular building is in charge of where food is made. That is how you can communicate that you are designing a kitchen. So you can incorporate those elements into modern designs. It's not until you have glasses and you have concrete blocks. Dimas has proven that you can use stabilized and compressed earthen blocks to see how beautiful pieces of art. And like I said, Bauhaus have started to research more on this, because they have seen that the solution to this earthing problem, this global warming and this deterioration of the environment, is all found is going back to using natural pieces of architecture and construction to solve their problems. So we might say, how do you balance heritage and modernity? You might say you might find challenges in maintaining authenticity while meeting contemporary needs. It's because we've not really put our minds into it. I just showed you some examples, some case studies of people that design things that were looking fantastic. The case study from Fawaz Adela just showed you a building that is a skyscraper. Skyscraper is known as modern. During our forefathers, there was no skyscraper. So skyscraper is a modern construction technique. But you see that he was able to achieve that using his heritage. There was nothing lost. He rather emphasized and shouted on the rooftops about his heritage using the modern style of architecture. So innovation is important in preserving cultural identity, because right now we have more technology. So this is not even the time we should shy away. This is not even the time we should carry our heritage, traditional architectural heritage, and throw into the dustbin. This is time to use technology and find ways to advance it. It's not just for us to show who we are by our clothing, not just for us to show who we are by our cuisine. It is high time for us to show who we are in the way we build, because where we live and where we stay affect our health directly. That has been proven. So until we find a way to make those buildings not sick buildings, but healthy buildings, integrating them back into the nature, we are going to continue to have those problems. And I also think that urban planning authorities and regulators should consider making laws. It's not just the architects, it's not just the designer, it is a holistic thing. Even the curriculum in schools should go back into promoting this way of building, this way of designing, this way of living. Remember, I said what makes us us is not just the building, it is our way of life. So until we find a way to go back to that way of life, we might be struggling with our building itself. So these are case studies of how this has been used. The first one on the left is my design, the Njikota, that was an Igbo Cultural and Research Center. You can see the high-pitched roof is because the Igbos were using high-pitched roof during my ancestors' time. And the high-pitched roof was not just for decoration, or it was primarily to allow rain to come down from the roof fast. But the storage under that high-pitched roof was also used for the space under that high-pitched roof, also used for storage. So you can see how they were thinking. Everything that they were doing was well thought of. They used that storage under the roof as that space under the roof as storage. So that gave me this idea to use this high-pitched roof. And as you can see on top there, I had a hole and a space above my courtyard that was throwing in light to show that divinity I was talking about, that we are coming down from Nri. We are Nri's descendants. So we should celebrate that divinity. And it's not only me, there are a lot of architects all over Africa that's been doing that. We have the Madhouse by Adeyemi Shokombi in Lagos. We have the school at Gando by Francis Carey that has won a prize. He's now internationally recognized as a great architect. Meanwhile, he's designing African-centered buildings. That third picture is not a building of a high Eurocentric building somewhere in town. It's actually a school in a village that has given him that prize, that recognition. So we should stop looking down on our own tradition. We should stop looking down on our own architecture and embrace it. And like Fawaz Adelaja, shout at the top of the roof about our heritage that we so well mastered and that was allowing us to live in harmony with nature. And we should run back to embrace that so that we will not die of extinction or global warming. The last picture shows the bank that has been designed by this very wonderful architect. The good thing about this bank is that there's a calabash. You see this hole on top? There's a calabash in front of this building. So that calabash, once you see it and the way it's decorated, you will know exactly this is Africa. There is no way your mind will go somewhere else. And this building was designed to show the union between those African countries. Remember, I said at the beginning, the African nuclear family was known for union. When I was mentioning the renovation of the wall in the mosque, I was talking about community engagement union. That is what Africa is known for. And the earlier we show it in our design and we leave it in the way we live, the better. This now leaves us with future discussions. How do we make this thing work? How do we really bring out this traditional African architecture into this modern era? I've given you some few hints, some few points, but that is where we start from. That's just the beginning. There are a whole lot of things to do with that. I talked about somebody in this town of Kwaibom that is already talking of using bamboo as reinforcement rods for his slab, and he's very, very serious about it. So people have started thinking about it, and I think it's high time all of us join this movement. We can also incorporate AI and 3D printing. Yes, some of those things we think are not easy to come by again. AI is there. We can program a computer and a system to provide those pieces that are missing so that this architecture we're talking about can become a reality, and it can now enhance this tradition we are talking about. There is really a need for Africans to stand up and to take the bull by the horn, to take the lead in this search for innovation, this search for African traditional architectural renaissance. We should not wait until the same people that colonize us bring back this renaissance to us. It won't really make sense. This is ours, is our own to embrace, it's our own to take hold on. So wake up, join me, and let's make this a reality. I hope this meeting was good enough for everyone. This is now time for anyone that has a question to ask so that we can interact and discuss more about this.
Thank you very much, Chibuzo, for your lecture. And welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to join us today for our very first BAOBAB lecture. Architect Chibuzo, well done. We definitely want to open it up now to Q&A. And in the event the Zoom times out, please just dial back in so that we continue this wonderful conversation. Thank you, Chibuzo. Over back to our hosts.
Good day, everyone. It was so nice having everybody on the call. And I believe that we all had a wonderful time listening and also, more importantly, thinking about the things that we have seen. I don't know if anybody has a question that he or she wants to ask, so we can do that now. And then our architect can answer it.
Okay, good evening. My name is Edwin Akavilo, so I'm dialing in from Switzerland. So I got a link from a friend and I said, okay, let me dial in and see what is happening. And actually at the moment we are discussing a project with University of, one of number 5. They are in the 5th position in the world in terms of technology. It's called the ETH, it's Zurich University of Technology. So we are discussing a solution whereby we are going to come to Nigeria and try to use the same materials, local materials, to see how we can create structures that are 100% locally based. So we have written the concept, we're still trying to see the possibility of getting it endorsed by the University of Zurich University of Technology. Now, my question is this. I'm more in the educational sector. My focus is more in terms of education oriented. Now, most of the buildings in Nigeria, mostly educational institute, maybe primary schools, secondary schools, most of them, their degradation starts with the roofs. So I think maybe 90% of them have zinc roofs. And if one puts an object on the roof, the rust will start, and from there, the degradation will continue. So I want to know, what is the idea behind it? Is it a problem noticeable? Is it possible to do something about it? Is there anything in planning, or how is it the issue of creating roofs with zincs, or as they call them? Is this something that worry people, or just a standard problem that nobody noticed? So that's my question.
I wanted to answer Edwin's question. It's a very valid observation you made, Mr. Edwin, and welcome to CPDI Africa webinar. But there are some things I want to point out right now. Most of those schools that actually happened are public schools. Most times those schools are public schools. And because of this attitude that what belongs to the government is nobody's property, the first thing is that the security level in those schools is not really adequate. So people come in there because it's a general thing, and the first thing they see to do is to remove those roofing sheets. It's true that some of those sheets actually corrode with time, because the gauge they use for those roofing sheets are not really good gauge, because they are always looking for a cheaper means to do those constructions, because they will tell you it is government intervention and they want that to be as cheap as possible since it's a government school year. So aside from the corrosion from the weather because of the type of materials they use or they gauge, there's also that theft. They come and remove those sheets and go and sell them for very alarming small rates just to get what to eat from. So once they remove the first sheet, second sheet, third sheets, you see a school that those sheets are open. And from there, the carcass of the roof begins to decay. So that's a problem. Most private schools don't have that kind of issues. So the issue is mostly in public schools. But again, if the right gauges were used, I think the elements of weather won't affect those schools. Then number two, if we are able to see that community engagement, that school actually was built by the government for us, for the community, and the community comes together to look into how do we make this school safe? How do you make this learning environment conducive for our children? I think the first thing that will happen is that they are going to safeguard those structures so that vandalism will stop. Then number two, aside from using those materials that corrode, when I was doing my internship, I was privileged to go to the root, go to my father and ask him questions, because he made us go back to find out who we really are. I asked him questions about this thatch roof they were using. Those days, it's true that modernism has come and nobody uses them again because they don't last. But who says we cannot come up with a research that make those thatch roofs last longer? My father shocked me when he told me that those sheets, if they were done by professionals, because the people that were trained to do those roofing sheets, and there were some that were just doing it because they didn't have money to pay those professionals. So if those sheets were done by professionals, they could last up to 10 years. 10 years, and I was shocked. Yes, 10 years, and they were not leaking. And funny enough, those houses had no ceiling, but they were never hot. Today's design, we have a lot of ceiling, we have roofing sheets, but the houses are hot. So trying to take your question back into what we are saying, I think if there was a way we can modernize or standardize what we are using before there, it will be beautiful. And I don't think somebody will want to come and remove thatch to go and sell as what they call it now, iron condemn. The thing will be there and the community is going to see it as part of their own heritage. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you very much. But there's some point I was expecting you to go through, which maybe you didn't go through. I live here in Switzerland, and I love art. I love aesthetic. I'm more always happy to engage myself with historical facts, maybe buildings, architecture. So there's where I live, just 5 minutes from my house. It's a house built maybe in the, I think, 14th century. That should be 600 years ago. And now the roof of this house is made of mud. It's called brick, not brick, but it's called clay, terracotta. It's terracotta. So it's a kind of special mud that is located in some areas in Nigeria, especially also in Igbo land around Uguta and maybe around Njaba River. So this mud could be easily deformed.
Well,
and
funny
then
enough,
fired.
I'm from Njaba, so that's why I'm shaking my head. You're right. It's in Njaba.
Okay, so there's a mud deposit around that area, which one can easily create an oven. And if these mods are molded and fired in oven, you can have a clay roof that can actually last for more than 100 years. I've seen some buildings in Abuja that are currently being built with, especially most of the colonial houses in Abuja or in some areas in Lagos. You can see that most of them are built with those clay-fired roofs or material. So I'm just ready to open. Maybe we can follow up with that later, because maybe our project, we are trying to see if we can maybe find a way to be using those materials for especially public institutions so that they can maybe last for centuries or maybe for years. That's just my input. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your contribution. And now remember the roofing sheet you are talking about. Yes, they were used before, but I think it's a thing of the mind. What we heard was that because the rains used to wash off some of them, and the people used to drink water they collect from rain, that it used to lead to diseases and cancer in quotes. Like I say, it's a thing of the mind and it's a thing of marketing. So they were able to push people away softly from that roofing sheet that lasts long. You are right, that roofing sheet lasts long. It's fire clay. It can break if you hit it with hammer, but if it's up there, it can stay for as long as possible without it having an issue. Part of what we are talking about, using our locally found materials, that particular terracotta is in Njaba. If you go near the Njaba River and you put your hand inside the river, you're going to see that red color coming out from under the water, because that is where that particular terracotta you're talking about is. So taking that material, since we have the technology right now, the technology was not even as advanced as we are. So if the problem is cancer, as they were saying, we can find a way to, okay, what do we remove from this element to make it less cancerous? Since we knew this was lasting like bricks, and go back and use this particular material that, again, you are right, people will climb on top to vandalize because they want to sell it as metal. The thing will be there for a very long time, and it won't transmit heat like this aluminum, and it will be part of our heritage. So that's a very good contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Architect Chibuzo. We got a question from the chat, and this question is talking about, it's asking, we know that these traditional materials, in quotes, they are generally seen as cheaper materials. You can see, you say thatch, some people will see that thatch is just reeds on the road, or rather leaves. Now the question is, if these things are so cheap, how come the construction at the end of the day now becomes so super expensive that it's not something that can now be easily employed for everybody to use? I don't know if you understand the question.
Yes, I do understand the question, and it all boils down to standardization. Right now, when those materials were in use, not that they are not out there again in nature, they are out there in nature, but as people have shifted away from using them, their knowledge of how to use them optimally has also eroded from their mind. Right now, everybody think what we can use is concrete blocks. They are everywhere. And because they are everywhere, they seem to be cheaper. So somebody now saying he wants to go and build a house with thatch roof, first of all, he has to find who has that knowledge of how to install a thatch roof successfully. Else, the first rain that falls, his roofing sheet will fly away and his house will leak. So because we've moved away from this, that's why we are calling for us to come back to this. We see our people that are still alive that have these knowledges in their mind. We should come back to this, call these people, take the knowledge they have and document it. One of the greatest problems we had was documentation. Document how these things are used. By the time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people use them, they become standard like the concrete blocks. I mentioned bamboo when I was talking earlier. Bamboo in Akwa Ibom was sold for 300 naira for a piece. But because people have now started using bamboo for a lot of things, people have now started reasoning that they want to use bamboo as reinforcement. Bamboo has now increased slightly to 1,000 naira a piece. So when this demand increases, and you have to wait for some time to mature, and it's not that readily available, it becomes expensive. So how we are going to solve this problem is, if we want to use those locally available materials, we can still use them to build. People still use thatch and mud to build up to today. That is still done. But things like the thatch roof and those sensitive areas, we really need to know the technical know-how to do them. And those who are building walls using sticks and mud, waffle and dough, they're actually doing it cheaper because they're doing it themselves. It's actually cheaper than this. You don't need to buy a bag of cement. You don't need to go and buy blocks. You don't need to come and pay a mason. You don't need to go and buy sharp sand. Everything you are doing is from all around you. People build it and it's cheaper. The only problem that they have is that it doesn't last long. Every now and then you have to come and patch those cracks. And that makes it like a little bit cumbersome over time. But it's still cheaper to build. So that still exists.
Thank you very much for that answer. And it's very beautiful the way you mentioned that, because I do remember myself being in a discussion with somebody and I was trying to explain these same things to the person. And I was trying to explain that sometimes the thing of in economics is like, oh, when there is supply, the cost just when there's high demand and high supply, low demand, the cost will drop. Over time, we had situations where we stopped using these traditional materials. That the materials are still available, but it's a question of is the knowledge available. The lack of knowledge is actually what ends up driving up the cost, because most of the situations, even when we talk about trying to develop these things to the next level, you still have to start somewhere. And us not having somewhere to start, that base knowledge that has already been given to us by our forefathers, because we're no longer connected to that, we now have to start again from scratch. And to be very honest, human beings sometimes we can be very lazy, and trying to start again might be a problem. So yes, thank you very much for that answer. There's another question here, and you did touch on this in the presentation, but I think you need further information for you to break it down further. The question is, how can contemporary architects strike that balance between heritage and modernity in their design in a way that makes it that, oh, we're not just colonizers, in quote, not just recolonizing our tradition. Um, for the younger generation, recently there was the Kendrick Lamar and Drake situation where Kendrick Lamar was saying rap is authentic in its history, but you can't just come in as an outsider and because you can rap but not taking the culture along, that's no longer what the original rap was meant to do. So we're trying to talk about our architecture again. How can you make sure that even though you are taking this thing to the next level, you are also representing the heritage true and true?
Thank you again for that question. And I will continue where I stopped when I used Powers Adelaja's case study. Architect Farouk Umar also had a design in that regard, where something was done that was looking purely modern, but it was shouting traditional all over it. Remember, I started this webinar by saying that when we say traditional architecture, it's not about only mods and huts inside one bush somewhere. It's the way we live. It's the way we present ourselves. The same way I will say the Nigerian cuisine and Nigerian couture has gone a long way to impose themselves to the world without actually colonizing everybody. But Nigerian music too, that I even forgot, that's a very strong one. Davido, Burna Boy, Wizkid, Tems, Ayasta, all of them, they came out from seemingly nowhere, not nowhere per se, but they came out to impose themselves as names recognized all over the world. Rema has won a lot of prizes here and there with a single song. What happened? He was just himself. He just sang a music that he believed originated from Nigeria. Although when you listen to that music, you see that there are some little ingredients from some folklore here and there. But he was able to transform this into a Nigerian piece that the world borrowed, and there are not many versions of that song. That is the same thing we are talking about, integrating those traditional architecture into the modern era. Yes, you want to build an 18-story building. You want to build a science park. What says that a science park cannot be termed after the god of the Njaba River, that is the snake? We know we have a museum in Cameroon that is built using a spider and a snake. Right there in Cameroon, it's museum, but it's speaking about that particular tradition of that place in Bamun. Bamun people are known for the way they integrate with snakes and spider. They were able to make that come home. That's why we are talking about. We are modern, yes, we've learned a lot of technology and it's to our advantage. But in showcasing who we are, we should put our identity into our building. Our identity is that traditional architecture we are talking about. It's not just the huts. Like Fawaz Adelaja did, he took a cowrie, developed it, and adorned it in such a way that it is shouting on top of the roof. It might not be that you adorn it like Fawaz Adelaja. It might be that you build it like Dimas. The building behind me there is Dimas' building. You see concrete, he uses concrete everywhere, and it's actually a center. But the way he uses that center, those materials, you know that these materials are coming from around him, from within. That is the essence. That's why we are talking about, to bring whatsoever you are doing in the modern era and integrate the traditional into it to make that statement. I think that's what we are talking about.
Okay, so I want to say thank you to everyone.
Thank you very much.
I don't know whether you have any more
questions. That's also another beautiful answer. It even reminds me of a conceptual project I was working on not too long ago, and that was even one of the main issues, trying to balance modernity and and tradition at the same time, but not keep it stale, and also still make sure that it is rooted and authentic. We have a question here which says most of these materials are not manufactured. They are available in nature and thereby prone to depletion. How do we ensure their independence?
I didn't get the last part. How do we ensure?
How do we ensure their availability and sustainability in the case of high dependency? Like when we actually start using these materials again highly, how do we make sure that we do not end up in a situation where the prices start going up because we can no longer supply?
I'm going to answer this question with a shocker. Funny enough, all these materials used all over the world are found in Africa. All of them. All of them are found in Africa. There is none of them. The ones that are using in China, the ones that are using in Europe, they are all those materials are found right here in Africa. I think the problem we have is we allowed another person to teach us how to integrate those materials one on top of the other. That doesn't work with our environment. It's like you taking a software and install it into a computer that is not meant for it. Remember, our colonizers have a weather that is majorly cold, so they are trying to retain heat. We here, we have a weather that's we are trying to throw away heat. In fact, what most of us do is that most times you want to remove your shirt and just walk shirtless because of the heat. So what we should do is, those materials won't really go extinct like that if each and every of those materials, wherever they are, we find a way to use them that suits the environment in which they are found. If you are finding sand here and you use sand the way sand is supposed to be used and not use cement to generate heat on the sand, you are going to see that less sand is going to be demanded. If you go up, let's say in Cross River, and you have timber, and so you to use the same sand because you see sand is used in Akure, you want to use sand in Cross River. You now use the timber that is available right there, develop it and build with it. Of course, if timber is available right there, means timber is thriving right there, which means timber has all it takes to withstand the elements. Use that timber to shelter yourself. It means you're also sheltering yourself from the element because those timber have those properties. So if we should really go down and look at those elements, those components, those materials, wherever they are found all over Nigeria, since all of them are here, all over Africa, and find how to make them work with nature where they are found, we solve our problem. I can guarantee you there will be no shortages anywhere because you are going to use what you have where you have it. You don't need to use what you have because somebody in another part of Nigeria is using it. But you're using what you have because it's found there and you're making it green. You're making it sustainable. You're answering the problem of climate change.
Thank you, Architect Chibuzo. Thank you very much. I want to thank everybody now. We've spent our hour, and I think a few of us have already dropped, so we want to give out the most important information now, post the lecture. Once again, Architect Chibuzo, thank you very much for lecturing during our inaugural BAOBAB presentation. Architects Yuki and Alade, thanks for hosting all of our guests. We see Architect Oka is here, Architect Amina, of course, our guest from Zurich, Edwin Aka. I see Simon Omaidu. I'm not sure where he's calling in from, but for everyone who joined us today, our goal here is to begin to reach out to our community around the world, have some quick, engaging conversations, and let everyone know that what we have coming on board this year is quite exciting, and we want you all to join us. We're excited to say that we now will be having our courses available for students at the African University of Science and Technology here in Abuja. And so finally, there will be a school in Nigeria, and I wonder if I should even say Africa, that is focusing on Afrocentric architecture. So all of you that are here are going to be part of that. And we definitely welcome you all to come back monthly. I think it's every last Thursday of the month. We will join here and hear from different experts in this conversation. We have started out today with architect Ohaneje, and so we truly appreciate. With that, I'll say maybe one or two last comments. I think we have two guests that are still here. And if any of our team members at CPDI want to say a last couple of words, then we'll begin to round up so that you all have the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
and
you
I'm
very
Madly
much.
Okumabua. Just in
Yeah,
case,
Madly.
I'm sorry, I didn't say my name. My name is Madly Okumabua. All right, go ahead. Who was that?
Madly, thank you very much. Thank you, Yuki. Thank you, Chibuzo, everybody. I couldn't really follow through because I was driving. I just got to my house now, and I know. So that's where I could contribute. But I think it was good. It's a good inaugural session. Chibuzo, you did well. They somehow, I don't think the network was shaky. It went off, knocked us all of us out at the point, and then we all came back on. But I think it's a good thing, and as we go on, we're going to improve on it. And then I think it's good. The BAOBAB evening, it's a wonderful idea. Thank you very much, Madly. Thank you very much, every other person, and we'll make sure that every Thursday we're here.
Every last Thursday.
Make it. Yeah.
Every last Thursday.
Oh, it's last Thursday of every month, right?
Yes. Last
Okay.
Thursday of the month.
Okay.
And we also put our information. Edwin has put his information. Please, Yuki Malade, please grab his details. He made some very, very good points coming to Nigeria, looking for sustainable materials to specify in his buildings. We are trying to compile that list. He's provided some information already on the clay tiles that are made here in Nigeria. We would love to get more information about that from you. Whenever you're in Abuja, please come to our center. You raised some very good questions, and Chibuzo answered them all very well. I was learning as well as he was speaking. The issue with those iron roofs, another holdover from our colonial days where we are forced to use things like iron and cement that are not good for our geography. They make us extremely hot, apart from being unsightly when they begin to rust. So yes, we're hoping that with initiatives like this, we will get our policymakers and professionals to begin to look at the appropriate materials to use. And like he was saying, the more we use our local materials, the less expensive they will become. We have forgotten how to build according to our own culture and our own science and technology. If we bring that back to the table, the costs will go away and we'll all become experts again in how to design and build for ourselves, using the right materials for our climate, and of course, the right architectural languages for our respective cultures. So you raised a lot of good points. Please keep in touch with us. We appreciate you reaching out all the way from Zurich. And if you don't mind letting us know which friend gave you the link to this presentation.
It's Adamwudiwe.
Okay.
I don't know
Anybody
if
here
any
know?
of you know her. Adamwudiwe from Afro
No.
Archives.
Wow, no, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, and
Chibuzo?
another thing is that because we are working with university here in Zurich, we're also looking for collaboration because and normally the government here, they have funds for collaboration, especially when it comes to architects. And the project we are trying to embark on, we are also seeking to have Nigerian partners, especially the university, because it will make it more academic in nature, because university or institute, because it's always good to have an local institute, and we can connect the sweet aspect. Maybe they do the research on the material, and the Nigerian part, we provide the local materials as well as the local resources, because the idea is to be able to have communities come together and build a school, because when they build it, they own it.
Architectural components to the campus, and we're there to look at standardizing local materials, and so many things. So exactly what you're speaking about is where we come in. We would love to be your on-ground local partner. So please, let's definitely collect your information. I don't know whether, I think you dropped your email.
I dropped the email. It's reachable. And as well, just a small note, Chibuzo, Mr. Chibuzo, I'm also close to your place. I'm from Ameri. So you are muted.
Oh, no wonder. It's nice to see you, sir.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to hear that. Yes.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys are connecting, eh?
Yes.
Definitely. One hand, definitely.
Yeah, you guys are connecting. That's good. That's good. Edwin, nice to have you around.
Yes, Mr.
We need more of people like you around.
Yeah,
yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Simon, did you have anything to say? We see you're still here before we close down.
Not really. I'm from, you're asking where I'm from. Actually, Yuki sent me the link. I'm currently with him in Ibadan. So
Okay.
it's a very good initiative, and I really learned a lot. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Are you an architect or are you in the
Yes.
related?
I'm an architect.
Okay. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Please stay a part of the family. CPDI is definitely a family of like-minded individuals. We all have Africa's growth and development on our hearts. So please join us so that we can be all part of this happy family. Thank you all. Have a very good evening. Chibuzo, thank you once again. And we'll see you guys in exactly 4 weeks.
Thank you very much, Matt, for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you, Architect Chibuzo.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.